Hello friends, welcome back to Lessons with Laura, the Holiday Edition, Part 2. If you're new here, my name is Laura Ingalls Gunn. Last week we read a Christmas story out of Little Town on the Prairie when their neighbors, the Boses, arrived unexpectedly. And I'll link down to that in the description box so you can catch up if you like. And this week we're going to be reading a story out of These Happy Golden Years. And it's not a Christmas story as much as it is a winter story. And I opted to share that because after last week's episode, many of you emailed me or sent me direct messages or left a YouTube comment that you were watching the video from places all over the world, and some of you were celebrating Hanukkah, others will get ready to celebrate Kwanzaa, or even the season of Yule. And I thought that that was so wonderful that we all could come together. Now, the title of the story that we're going to be reading today is Jingle Bells. And we might all be well familiar with the famous carol where it talks about the one-horse open sleigh. And in the opening sequence, the camera came in for a closer look at a collection of jingle bells that I have. And this would have hung on the side of the sled or attached to the horse's harness. What I really love are these antique jingle bells. These bells would have hung on the horse's harness during the time of Almanzo and Laura. And they have all found me at various little estate sales or antique shops. Isn't that a pretty sound? I just love it. It makes me so happy. And I am so excited to read this story that talks about a very special time in Laura's life, and that is when she had begun courting Almanzo. And if you're familiar with the series, Nellie had her eye on Almanzo as well, which sort of made Laura a little bit jealous. And earlier this week I was at the grocery store and I spied Nellie's eggnog. This is from a farm in New Hampshire. And I was like, oh my goodness, well, we have to be drinking our Nellie's eggnog while we're reading today's story. And this led me to wonder, do you like eggnog? Because a lot of people don't care for it. And how do you drink your eggnog? Some people drink it cold, right out of the carton, and some people like to warm it up with a little sprinkling of nutmeg on the top, which is how I am drinking it. That is how my grandmother used to prepare it for me when I was little. I do love it. So cozy up. I hope that you enjoy today's story, Jingle Bells. It starts on page 90 in this book. Waking next morning was happier than Christmas. Oh, I'm home, Laura thought. She called, Carrie, good morning. Wake up, sleepyhead. She almost laughed with joy as she shivered into her dress and skipped downstairs to button her shoes and comb her hair in the warming kitchen where Ma was getting breakfast. Good morning, Ma, she sang. Good morning, Ma smiled. I declare, you look better already. "It's nice to be home," Laura said. "Now what shall I do first?" She was busy all that morning, helping with Saturday's work. Though usually she disliked the dryness of flour on her hands, today she enjoyed kneading the bread, thinking happily that she would be at home to eat the fresh, brown-crusted loaves. Her heart sang with the song on her lips. She was not going back to the Brewsters ever again. It was a beautiful sunny day, and that afternoon, when the work was all done, Laura hoped that Mary Power would come to talk to her while they crocheted. Ma was gently rocking while she knitted by the sunny window. Carrie was piecing her patchwork. But somehow Laura could not settle down. Mary did not come, and Laura had just decided that she would put on her wraps and go to see Mary when she heard the sleigh bells. For some reason, her heart jumped. But the bells rang thinly as they sped by. There were only a few bells. They were not the rich string of bells that Prince and Lady wore. Their music had not died away when again sleigh bells went tinkling past. Then all up and down the street the stillness sparkled with the ringing of the little bells. Laura went to the window. She saw Minnie Johnson and Fred Gilbert flash by. Then Arthur Johnson with the girl that Laura did not know. The full music of double strings of bells came swiftly, and Mary Power and Cap Garland dashed by in a cutter. So that was what Mary was doing. Cap Garland had a cutter and a full string of sleigh bells too. More and more laughing couples drove up and down the street in sleighs and cutters, passing and repassing the window where Laura stood. At last she sat soberly down to her crocheting. The sitting room was neat and quiet. Nobody came to see Laura. She had been gone so long that probably no one thought of her. All that afternoon the sleigh bells were going by. Up and down the street her schoolmates went laughing in the sunny cold, having such a good time. Again and again Mary and Cap sped past in a cutter made for two. Well, Laura thought, tomorrow she would see Ida at Sunday school. But Ida did not come to church that Sunday. Miss Brown said that she had a bad cold. That Sunday afternoon, the weather was even more beautiful. Again, the sleigh bells were ringing and laughter floating on the wind. Again, Mary Power and Cap went by, and Minnie and Fred and Frank Hawthorne and May Bird and all the newcomers whom Laura barely knew. Two by two, they went gaily by, laughing and singing with the chiming bells. No one remembered Laura. She had been away so long that everyone had forgotten her. Soberly, she tried to read Tennyson's poems. She tried not to mind being forgotten and left out. She tried not to hear the sleigh bells and the laughter. But more and more she felt that she could not bear it. Suddenly, a ringing of bells stopped at the door. Before Pa could look up from his paper, Laura had the door open, and there stood Prince and Lady with the little cutter, and Almanzo stood beside it smiling. "Would you like to go sleigh riding?" he asked. "Oh, yes," Laura answered. "Just a minute, I'll put on my wraps." Quickly, she got into her coat and put on her white hood and mittens. Almanzo tucked her into the cutter, and they sped away. "I didn't know your eyes were so blue," Almanzo said. "It's my white hood," Laura told him. "I always wore my dark one to Brewster's." She gave a gasp and she laughed out loud. "What's so funny?" Almanzo asked, smiling. "It's a joke on me," Laura said. "I didn't intend to go with you anymore, but I forgot." "Why did you come?" "I thought maybe you'd change your mind after you watched the crowds go by," Almanzo answered. Then they laughed together. Theirs was one of the line of sleighs and cutters swiftly going the length of Main Street, swinging in a circle on the prairie to the south, then speeding up Main Street and around in a circle to the north and back again and again. Far and wide, the sunshine sparkled on the snowy land. The wind blew cold against their faces. The sleigh bells were ringing and the sleigh runners squeaking on the hard-packed snow. And Laura was so happy that she had to sing. "Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh." All along the speeding line, other voices took up the tune. Swinging out on the open prairie and back, fast up the street and out on the prairie and back again. The bells went ringing and the voices singing in the frosty air. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. They were quite safe from blizzards because they did not go far from town. The wind was blowing, but not too hard, and everyone was so happy and gay, for it was only 20 degrees below zero, and the sun shone. Now I sort of giggle at that last line, for it was only 20 degrees below zero. Now I think the coldest that I have ever been outdoors was when I lived in Alaska, and it definitely got 20 below zero. And if you have ever lived in a cold climate like that, you can take a pan of boiling water and throw it up into the air, and it just magically dissipates into a chilled fog because of the coldness of the temperature. And I like to think that perhaps laughter and love kept them warm a bit. And last year, when Texas, where I live, had the 3-day snowstorm that you may have heard about, I did make a video about what the Victorians would have worn in cold weather. They really liked to layer their clothing. So I will link down below to that video because you might find it interesting. When I was finally dressed to go outdoors to shovel the walk, it was about 15 pounds of cloaks and mufflers and scarves and oh my goodness, yes, but it did keep me quite toasty. Now I have to know, if you live in a cold part of the world, do you still go for sleigh rides? I have only been on one sleigh ride in my life, and it was such fun. I hope to again do it once more. It was a true delight, and I hope you have enjoyed today's story. As I mentioned last week, we had a giveaway for a book, and this week as well, I am giving away a book, These Happy Golden Years, as well as a few other jingle bells from my collection. So if you would like to be considered for the giveaway, I would like you to leave a comment down below, and in the next week I will select a winner through the random number generator from all of the comments left. Now, I announced who the winner was of last week's giveaway on that video in the comments, as well as on my Instagram and Facebook channels. And you will find all of those links down below in the description box. I hope you have enjoyed today's story hour, and we have one more story on Sunday the 19th. And I have a little something special planned that I think you'll enjoy. And next Friday, I will be sharing a dress that I made as a Christmas gift for someone very special. So I hope you'll come back and watch that. You can always hit the subscribe button in the corner, and I do appreciate the thumbs up if you wouldn't mind clicking on that. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.